Did you know Zanni Pellegrino had a holiday book in a jacuzzi? I can't believe that. You guys, today is like Christmas for me because I get to have one of my favorite people, a person that inspires me, not only in pop culture, but in terms of podcasting, in terms of fashion, in terms of how he writes a book. He has his second book out that is hitting the stands October 24th. And you guys, if you want to get into the holiday spirit, you can do it right now with this book. I told you this week how much I was loving this, how much it made me feel good inside. Everything that this person does kind of makes you feel good inside anyways. I'm telling you, I can see your holiday setup and this book being front and center. It is called The Jolliest Bunch, Unhinged Holiday Stories. And it is unhinged holiday stories in the best. It reminds me of my mom. It reminds me of my family. It reminds me of holidays in Kansas. It reminds me of what we look forward to and all of the insanity that goes into these holiday seasons. And this man makes me appreciate not only Christmas, he makes me appreciate Halloween. He makes me appreciate the movie Now and Then. He makes me appreciate, yeah.
This is already the best intro I've ever had before in my whole life. No, I love it. I love it. No, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's really the best thing.
Wait, don't ruin it. They don't know it's you, Danny. They don't know it's you. No. Anyways, guys, he's the one, the only Danny Pellegrino. Danny, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. And I was telling you before we started recording, I almost wore the same Barbie sweatshirt you're wearing. I wish I would have put it on because we would have been twinning completely.
We would have been kinning. I'm wearing the Barbie sweatshirt. You are a person that would buy this kin sweatshirt like I would. I mean, and it makes me happy that I bought this. I mean, it makes you happy when you are able to have something tangible from a pop culture moment. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's very cozy. Unfortunately, it did take a little while for it to arrive for me. I don't know if it was the case for you. I ordered it and then it was like months before I got it, but eventually it came. And
okay, so we were talking about holiday collections. You've always appreciated them. And these are such easily digestible stories. And I love that you thought even of people like David Sedaris, because that's what I was thinking of when I was reading this. I was like, Danny is our David Sedaris. He's our pop culture David Sedaris.
Thank you so much. I really wanted, how do I remember this? And Now, The Jolliest Bunch. I wanted it to be my version of a David Sedaris book. Of course, I was raised on those essay collections, but there's even things like Gene Shepherd has a holiday collection that was what The Christmas Story was based on, the movie. And so I love the idea of having something seasonal that people could pick up, hopefully, in years to come. But then also, I think the holiday season is a tough time. I wanted it to be something people could pick up now and enjoy and relax and find something silly. They're all silly stories. And there's a couple more dramatic, heartfelt moments throughout too, but it really is meant to make people smile and feel that kind of warm and fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, that was the thing. I was like, you know, those things that come, and this is why I love pop culture myself, is those things when you're not feeling good, you can rely on them or they can lift you up. And I was sitting there reading that story about your cross-country trip with your new friend who offered you meats out of her purse. And I was like, no effing way. This, like, you got to read. I don't want to give this story away, but at one point he goes into like a 7-Eleven and she like starts like stuffing stuff into his pocket. He thinks like to steal. He's like, don't say anything. Just get back in the car. And I loved it. And it reminded me, I was like, wait, this is going to be a movie. This is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Danny's version. Like, this is great.
Thank you. I mean, that would be a dream come true. But what I found in writing the stories was that the truth is so much stranger than fiction with all of them. And they're very much like slice of life stories. So they're just kind of everyday scenarios that are heightened because I think life tends to heighten things. And I really think life is more cartoonish than we realize oftentimes. And so going back and writing the stories, I was even worried myself writing the stories, like, am I over exaggerating? And of course I tried to change the names and certain details to protect people and not give away too much. But what I found in the last book, and now as people are starting to read The Jolliest Bunch, is that the people who are involved in the stories are actually telling me that they're even more crazy than I'm writing about. Like, they're telling me details that I even forgot that are crazier. And so I think, that's what I'm finding is even those stories that I think are so outlandish. And I'm like, people are going to think that I'm either completely making this up or crazy. And then I'm hearing from people who are involved in the story saying, no, actually, you forgot this detail. Or my brother's texting me being like, oh my God, you forgot when this happened. And so they're crazier. They're crazy stories. Anyway.
No, I mean, it really, I will say there were a couple times that like I was like, there's no way this happened. And then I would remind myself, I was like, wait a sec. Like, you watched your dad shit himself on Christmas one year. Of course these things happen. Of course this
Okay,
happens, you know?
Ryan, first of all, I need you to tell me that story about your dad shitting on his pants. But that's the thing too, is everyone, especially around the holidays, I think everyone has these sort of family stories that the cocktail party stories they tell, or the family stories they retell around the Thanksgiving table. And so everyone I'm finding too everyone is telling me their own family stories, and they're crazy. Like, everybody's story is
Yeah.
crazy. So I want to hear that story about your dad shitting himself, but they're crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you're like, well, listen, my dad. Well, this is very reminiscent of your mom. Like, the first story you started us out with in the book, is like your mom prepping this meal, and like she like kind of burst. But it's like my mom would always do that thing where she would be like, Christmas Eve dinner would be at our place, and it would be all of these things, and she would tell me for a month what she was going to do, the shrimp, and then I'm going to go to Costco and I'm getting this, but I'm also trying out this new recipe that involves asparagus, and it would all be this thing. And my dad would say, like, he would start around like noon, and he'd be like watching my mom work, and he'd be like, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and start in on the Jamesons. And it would just, and then by the time we sit down to the dinner, he's literally sick. He's soiled himself in so many ways, and he's like, you've ruined it. You ruined it, Bill. You ruined it again. And there's like this wonderful thing in this book of you going out to your mom who's in the car, and she's like, I'm going to the corner, Dan. I'm going to the corner.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could see it so perfectly. I could see our moms are out there busting their ass to make this vision in their head that they have built up for their family. And it's just so extreme, so much pressure on one day. And I love the thought of little Danny going out to the car of like, can I go? Can I go for you, Mom?
Yeah, my mom would always, still to this day, she'll have a little mini meltdown on Christmas Eve. And I get it, because she's the one really keeping everything organized, and she's the spearheading the entire holiday. And I think that is different for every family. Sometimes maybe it's the dad or the uncle or somebody is spearheading the holiday. And for me, that's my mom. And so she tries so hard to make it look like the Brady Bunch Christmas or the perfect holiday. And it never is. And the more I think anyone tries to make something perfect, the more crazy it's going to end up being, or the more unhinged it's going to be in the outcome. And so, yeah, I think there's always someone in a family, whether, and these stories, they're holiday stories, but in the non-religious sense. And I think if you look at whoever in your family kind of spearheads the family functions, there's always usually one person at least trying to keep it together, but they're never able to.
I think what we all love about you too is your detail work, is that like, oh, even like, oh, I was stealing liquor from my parents' cabinet, and it was like the green liquor that there was always some mysterious green liquor in there that you could get your hands on. And you thought you were so adult, and you were like, I'm there with my MTV passing out candy to trick-or-treaters. And those specificities pull us right in. And it's like, that's what I love about your books, especially, is that you spurn our own memories. You like, we appreciate it from this different angle of like, what was my green liquor? Where was my parents' liquor cabinet? What was I watching when I felt freedom when they were away? And it made, these moments.
Hopefully they take you back. I remember, actually, I learned later on that my mom, for my parents' liquor cabinet when I was a teen, she would mark the bottle with a magic marker. So then she would know if her and my dad went out or something. She would know if my brothers or if I had any of the alcohol, because the line would be different. And one time I remember my brother he had drank it, but then he like put more in the bottle. So then it was like the level of liquid was higher than my mom's line. And so it was like more alcohol. Anyway, yeah.
I stole one of my mom's Zimas one time when she drank Zimas back in the day, and it was a big family meeting of who stole the Zima, and I knew it was me, and I was like, I did not take that Zima, and I knew exactly where the empty bottle was. It was hidden in my penny drawer, like I had a big penny can that I hid the Zima bottle in, but I still remember that, and I was thinking about those memories, and I was like, how exciting for people to get to read this book around this time of year. and get to like think about their own memories and appreciate it from this different angle, because some of these stories are horrifying. Yet I think when you start to remember these details, Danny, when you're writing this, what was that process in terms of like, were you like, this is hysterical? What's your relationship to these stories now?
I love them. I like looking around at the chaos around me. I think I'm a very observant person, and I've always been someone who's journaled, and so I tend to keep a running journal my whole life, so I can look back on certain times and see some of the specifics that I might have missed when I'm trying to recall them in my head. But I love the chaos, and I love a quirky character. So when I am in a place that's crowded or something, I will immediately kind of buddy up to the quirkiest person, whatever that means, is like whatever the craziest kind of person I see is. I will go and try to find them, and I yeah I don't know. I like taking what I realized that the writing process for both of the books was like taking a little nugget or a little moment. So in the first book, the example I could give is like going to the dry cleaner, where it's just a story about going to a dry cleaner, but then as it unfolds, you start to see the bigger picture of the craziness. So I like taking a little kind of strange everyday thing and then seeing what was going on around that. And then I also found that some of these little moments had bigger emotion attached to them than I realized. So some certain stories might have started as like a family story about my mom trying to put together a Christmas Eve party. And then when I take a bigger step away from it in the writing process, I realized something about my relationship with my mother, or something about my parents' relationship dynamic between the two of them that might be a little deeper that I wasn't expecting. And so that part is really fun.
What's it like to finish this and have your mom read this? Like, what's been her reaction to this?
After the first book, I think she thought she's a star now. And so she was really concerned reading the first book. And she was so worried when she got the first book because she didn't know how her friends were going to react. And then her friends told her that the stories about her in the first book were funny and she liked them and stuff. So then now for this one, she's a little easier going. And so she's been super supportive of this one and excited, I think, for people to read it because now she thinks she's a star. And I'm going on tour, and at the Cleveland event in a next week
That's
at
a
this
week.
time.
That's next week.
I don't know when this was coming out, but at the Cleveland event, my mom's coming, and I'm a little concerned now. She thinks she's a star, so she might pop on stage and like totally take over the show because that's where her head's at now.
That's like when Jay-Z will pop out with Beyonce.
Yeah.
Your mom
Your
popping out.
parents too. Your parents are stars now from these podcasts. It's weird too because you tell these stories.
Oh, it's wild. They feel like they know him. And I was talking with Sammy Sage earlier, and I was saying, it's funny. It makes you appreciate your family in a whole different light when they're like, your mom was hysterical or your dad is this. And I'm like, oh my God, what do you mean? It's like they're a mess. They're a complete mess.
I know. My friends, I've always been sort of doing impressions of my mom, even in grade school and high school, because my mom is someone, and this comes up, I think, in the book so often because my mom, even outside of the holidays, is always trying to keep it together and present that sort of perfect sheen. And it never is presenting that. And so it's always been so funny to me because I know what she is behind closed doors and how hard she's trying to come across one way. And it's like so very clear she's not coming across as so perfect. Like everybody can see it except for her. But in her brain, it's like, look at us.
But that imperfectness is perfect. Like that's the thing, is that like, oh my God, it was so perfect. At the time it was horrifying, but it was just perfect. And it's like sloppy, like, and it's non-execution, the big dreams that never came to light in terms of the holidays.
And Christmas Vacation is such an influential movie to me, and the book title is a little
you
moment
start
from
off the passage. The first passage is, we're gonna have the happiest holiday. It's burned into my mind.
Yeah, and that's what I want. I want the book to feel like a Christmas Vacation in a book form. But I think if you look at the Griswolds, Clark and Ellen, the parental figures in those movies, the vacation movies, I think they're a similar way of. I don't think Clark really recognizes how he's coming across, but in his brain he's coming across as Danny fucking K,
Yeah, we're happy. I watched that movie. My parents were moving from Kansas to Arizona, and my dad felt bad about moving the family, so he let us go to the movie theater every weekend. And I saw Christmas Vacation 5 weekends in a row, and it was heaven. Like that movie has made such an impact on me. I watch it so many times a year too. What is the what's the best Christmas gift you've ever received?
You know, I think the one that sticks out, and I think I mentioned this in the book, but the one that sticks out was in the 80s. I had wanted the 101 Dalmatian plushes, like I wanted this specifically a patch one. It was when the movie was maybe re-released or something. But I was so excited because I got this patch. It was just a stuffed animal, but then my brothers got the Nintendo. So this was probably late 80s. They got the original Nintendo. And I just remember that holiday, that Christmas morning, setting up the Nintendo. And I had the 101 Dalmatians and then being so blown away by video games. That was like my first real sort of introduction to video games. And I just have a very vivid memory. I don't remember much about what happened the rest of the day, but I remember like sitting while my brothers were playing Super Mario, sitting with my plush. And it was just so, I wish I could kind of recapture that feeling or go back in time to that moment, because it was just a pleasant, I don't know, it's just a special Christmas.
That's
How
is
about
that
you?
your Red Ryder shotgun?
Yeah, probably. How about you?
No, I mean like the best Christmas gift. I mean, you know, there was one year that my mom got me a leather jacket, and it was, you know, we were a generic family in terms of she bought everything generic. So it was a leather jacket, but it was the leather jacket from Ross, and it wasn't the right style, but it was the thought of like, you have a leather jacket. It wasn't even leather, you guys, it was pleather, but it
Yeah.
was the fact of, you know, she tried to make this work, and it was a deep realization of, wasn't what I wanted, but she tried to make it happen within the confines of her budget and what was okay for her. But that sticks out to me. It was like my eighth grade, when I was in eighth grade, that happened. And it was like this big old puffy, burly leather jacket that looked horrible on me. But I remember thinking like, hell yeah, look at this. And then I put a bunch of nerdy pop culture buttons on it.
Oh my
And it was,
God.
but that sticks out in my head, even though it's not like the best gift ever, but it just meant so much to me at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
don't know.
speaking of leather jacket, when I was in high school, my older brother got some like scammy connection of someone that was selling leather jackets. And so this guy was selling them for, I don't, really cheap, probably like $20 or something for what I thought was a leather jacket. And then I was so excited to show it off, but it was pleather. And then I remember being out with friends and it was peeling on the back, the leather jacket, because it
Yeah,
wasn't leather. It was
yeah,
like peeling
yeah.
off. And a
Oh, I know.
friend, I didn't even know that it was peeling on the back. And I'm wearing it. I'm thinking I look so cool. And I can't believe I got this leather jacket. And then a friend came and like ripped where it was peeling off. So it made like the whole thing fall apart. And I was just like, oh, it's a leather jacket. My friends are like, that's not leather. Like it's completely falling apart.
I can see
And
that.
I just felt like
That's
an idiot.
that's so Midwest too. That I mean, I love all of that. I was thinking about reading this book too, of the appreciation you have, and I got scared because I was like, you have to do this intense tour now, probably right now, which is exciting because you love this. You truly love the people listening to your podcast and reading your books. But are we ruining your holiday for you? Like, I kept thinking, are we ruining Danny's Halloween? Are we ruining, like, are we now putting his, like, how is he gonna enjoy the holidays this year? I kept thinking about
No,
that.
I will totally enjoy the holidays. First of all, it has been a mind fuck because I've been writing sometimes Christmas stories in the summer months and editing during the fall and spring, and it's all over the place. So I feel like I've been sort of celebrating the end of the year holidays for months now. But I am excited because so my tour will be over by November. So my last sort of live show dates are in early November. So then I'll be able to just sort of settle in and really enjoy the holidays. So I'm excited. I think also I just feel so proud of the book, and it is exhausting and I feel so gross trying to get people to buy it. And I don't like that part because I am so proud of it, but then I
Yeah.
feel just gross bugging people to buy it. And I know especially during these times, it's like people don't have a lot of money and it's hard. Books are printing is expensive. So books all are being they're costing more. And so I do feel bad begging people to buy the book, but I am really proud of it. And I do think it'll be a fun thing for people to read over the holiday season. So I'm kind of in that way of like, angel
You,
devil.
you you're not begging. Like, this is something that I
Well, I'm begging
truly
a little,
believe.
Ryan. I'm
Well,
begging a
no,
little.
I'm begging people. Don't let me do the begging, because I'm like, this really truly will add to your holiday. You also have one of the funnier release dates for a book, October 24th, because not only is your book get released, but a certain pop culture icon, Britney Spears' book gets released on the same day. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And my parents, I did have to bully them into pre-ordering mine because I had to go on my mom's Amazon account and she had pre-ordered 2 copies of Britney Spears' book and no copies of mine. So I had like logged in and seen this and I was like, you guys have to pre-order mine. Like you need to do that. But I know Britney, everyone is so excited, and myself included. I love Britney Spears, so I can't wait. And I have this weird sort of fantasy that I would run into her somewhere and be like, we have the same book release.
And she was like,
And
I
that's my
know, Danny.
fantasy.
Are you kidding me? I know, Danny. Well, I don't know if you've already talked about this. You probably have. But to me, let's paint this as the book form of Barbenheimer. This is Barbenheimer right now. This is Pella Spears.
I
This
love
is
that.
like both books. Like this is a pop culture lover's dream. I'm telling you, you buy these 2 books and give them to a friend. That is the perfect holiday gift.
I
Are you
love you.
kidding me?
Yeah, I love
Pella
you. And
Spears.
there's also a John Stamos book coming out that day. So I don't know how we can incorporate him, but yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was just on a flight with John Stamos, and he was so lithe and skinny, and he's 60 years old, and I looked older than him, and he was like bouncing around, and I kept like looking back at John Stamos because he's so good looking, and I was like, I was starstruck by John Stamos the entire flight.
Can I tell you a secret story that
Yes.
I don't even know if I've told this before, but my brother and sister-in-law, when they got married, I was only 18 years old, but they did like a bachelorette party in Vegas. And so one of my brothers gave me his old ID so I can like go to the 21 and up things. But anyway, we were at this outdoor day pool, which I don't even know if it's still around, but it used to be called Rehab. That was the name of this pool
Yeah.
party. And we were there, and my sister-in-law and I were like walking around the perimeter to just kind of scope out who had the cabanas. And we saw John Stamos, who was there with Drew Carey, a Cleveland icon. And we asked to take a photo with John Stamos. And we had those cameras back in the day. What were those? Those disposable cameras.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law said to John Stamos, like, my brother-in-law really wants to know where the Olsons are. He loves Mary Kate and Ashley. And John Stamos pointed at his penis and he said, the twins are right here. And I'll never forget it. And obviously everyone was tipsy. It was all in playful nature. It wasn't anything bad. It was very tipsy playful, but it stuck out to me. And he was pointing at his dick and just saying, the twins are here.
That story will probably be in John Stamos's book. So get all 3 books. That would be incredible.
That's right.
So I mean, you are going back on tour as well, which starts next week in Cleveland. A lot of these dates are already sold out, but I'm sure there's a few remaining tickets for here and there. But what's it like? What it goes into you not only promoting your book and pushing this out there, but then facing a live audience of your listeners again? Is it nothing but excitement, or do you have nerves going back into this?
It's so exciting. I like being on stage. I don't like the travel part of it. I don't like planes, and I get anxious on planes, and I always am so worried I'm going to be late or something. But the actual shows are so fun. And I went on tour earlier this year, and so for the live shows, we have this video that opens up that it's kind of exclusive to the live shows. And so it's so fun to watch the reaction to that. And then I'll talk about whatever's kind of going on in the Bravo world at these live shows. So there's so much, as you know, we're right before BravoCon, but there's just so many things happening in that world. So I'm really excited to really get to break down everything that's going on. So there are still tickets available to Nashville, Cleveland, and then a couple for San Francisco. So if anyone's out there, we're going to be talking about all the Bravo stuff, and it's going to be a really good time. And then I have a couple like book signing only events. So I'm going to be at the Grove, and that just kind of blows my mind. I can't believe I'm going to be able to go to the Barnes and Noble Grove to sign books. I don't know. It's just exciting, but I like to meet everybody.
Yeah, no, it's like so exciting. People are so excited to meet you and go to these shows. It's one of those things that I get so excited when people talk to me about you, because you really I would say it's not a roadmap, because I could never be you. We're all like so unique and different, but it's so exciting to see somebody that you believe in, but not even believe in because it's like, oh, he worked hard. It's like, no, you're a genius. Like, this is you're so funny. Like, you're so, I mean, that's what's exciting about this for all of us, to watch this and watch you keep reaching new heights. I wanted to
Brian, I
talk about
gotta
the
say though, I gotta
yeah.
stop you because I gotta say within sort of our little Bravo podcast or pop culture podcast community, I just feel like everyone is so supportive, and that's not normally the case, I think, in other industries, particularly in the entertainment world. And I do feel so lucky, like you, people like you and Watch What Crappens or Two Judgy Girls or Amy Phil or all of these people. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm only naming, forgive me for all the ones I didn't say, but everyone is so nice. And I just feel grateful that we're all seemingly supportive without, it doesn't feel like fake supportive, because we all talk
No.
sort of offline or text each other, and it really is just nice and so rare, I think.
Could you imagine if Ronnie Karam was like, listen, Danny, you piece of shit, like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
hey, you better step off, dude. I don't want you
Well,
talking about Salt Lake this season.
well, we did almost have a fake feud because Ronnie texted me, or I forget if it was Ronnie or Ben, but we were laughing about the
Bethany Frankel.
there was all that no, I forget who it was. Some of the podcasters had like some big drama or some big feud that was happening. I think it was maybe, was there like,
Oh,
I don't even
Heather
remember who.
and
Oh
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Which I don't know much about, so forgive me. But
yeah,
he was saying let's start a fake feud, like to get, because everyone was so invested, I guess, in what
yeah.
was going on, and so we sort of joked about starting a fake feud, but no, there's no real feud. They're so nice.
That's what I was saying. I was saying the other day about feuds. I was like, I keep joking about wanting one, but if I ever had one, it would make me feel so bad. I would just worry about it
I
nonstop. It would
know.
make me feel sick. And that's not what, like, this is truly the love of pop culture that you represent. I was at your first show that you ever did at the Troubadour, I mean, I guess years ago now. Is it the same video that you played that night? Because it's so
No.
good, that video.
Oh,
I
thank
still
you.
think
No,
about it.
we keep updating it. So things keep getting added to it. It's incredible now. I mean, Matt helps me put it together, so it's not gross of me to say because he's doing a lot of that. I'm mostly just like texting my boyfriend and being like, make sure you put Meredith Marks slurring the word rumors in there. Like I'm texting him these crazy
Rumors?
things. The rumors? So it's ever evolving and changing. But you were at the Troubadour show, which, do you remember who the guests were at the show? Were Ariana and
Ariana and
Tom.
Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, which by the way, because I mean, you helped write that the cocktail book, obviously, which my mom was you like made every drink recipe in that damn book. I got her own copy.
It's a good
But
book. Like I know that
it's
I was
really
the
good.
co-author about it, but it was like a nice book. And we put a lot of work into that. And the pictures turned out great. The recipes are great. So I have to say, even though there was that whole scandal with that, the book is a solid book.
Yeah, no, it really is a solid book. I mean, but it is wild to think about, even your relationship with them and then everything that exploded. I mean, I'm curious if we are on the other side of Scandival where it's going to like, where it's, you now get the backlash of, I don't want to hear about any of it anymore. I'm just tired of any of it. I'm curious how much this Vanderpump ecosystem can continue. Like, can it soar to new heights, or have we reached the mass consumption level that it should be at?
I think we've reached the heights and now it's kind of going to be on the way down. That's not to say there couldn't be another moment, because what I've learned with the Scandival is that anything could come at any time. So if something could happen, I don't know that collectively in reality TV we'll have another Scandival type moment, because I don't know that I haven't seen anything like that probably since the table flip, but that was such a different era of reality TV. But I really do think Scandival, like, it could connected the public consciousness way more than Jen Shah or Erica Jane in the news. Like Scandival, for some reason or another, really infiltrated regular news, and people who don't know about the Bravo world were really into it and invested. So I don't know that anything could touch that. But I think in 10 years, if Vanderpump Rules is still on, there could be something again. Or, with all of these Bravo shows, I think there could be something, and I never will discount them, because sometimes a show might feel long in the tooth, and then you have something like Scandival happen.
Yeah, that's why with Real Housewives of New York, I don't know if you feel this way, is that I'm okay with fights about like phones. It's getting a little like in the weeds right now, but I'm like, okay, because you're setting a foundation for when something insane happens. We do know these ladies. We will go there with them. We will, like, when something works up to the level of, insanity, we already know these ladies, so we are much more willing to go there with them. Do you feel that way?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, with the new Roni, and don't yell at me in the DMs, listeners, but I found this season incredibly bad, like incredibly boring. I personally thought that. But that said, I do love the casting. And I think the problem I mostly had with this season was that the cast members didn't know each other. And we're kind of getting more details about how they didn't know each other coming out. I think Sai just recently gave an interview saying we're just meeting each other. So there wasn't really a foundation. And I really have an issue with the network, and we love Bravo, but I do have an issue with them stretching the season to 14 episodes. Because one of the things that I was saying on my show was like, a lot of our franchises launch with like 8 episodes, including the reunion. So if you look at season 1, Atlanta, I believe, New York, Orange County, those were 8-episode seasons, again, including the reunion episodes. Whereas the new season of New York, they're doing 14 episodes plus a reunion, 16 total, because now we found out the reunion's going to be 2 parts. And to me, that was just stretched too thin. They should have reduced the episode count. Like, to me, that the problems I have with the season are more with the network. And I know there are other things going into it on the network side where they have to order a certain amount of episodes. But I just think they should have truncated it to the 8 episodes. And I think it would have been a fantastic first season. Instead, it feels like so many of these things are dragging. And I think you might, I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes you can notice when it's like they're doing so many tricks or making a meal out of a small thing because they don't have anything else. And so I feel like that's what they're doing with, let's say, the Jessel storyline and whether or not she's having sex. It's like being stretched to 3 episodes. And I think that's producers saying, oh shit, like we have to do 14 episodes. So we got to make something.
They're doing themselves a disservice because they're also making us, by stretching this one story out, they're making the passion for disliking Sai that much more intense, you know, or as I call her, SIGH. It's just, it's going too long with that, where it's like each week we're disliking her more because they're just focusing on this one story. It's like get in, get out, because now she has so much more of a hill to overcome on the second season within the fandom itself. But I always want new things. Like, I don't think there's a world in which I don't want to learn about new women's stories. I don't think it's like, well, Roni had the OGs and it's got to end there. I'm not of that mindset.
I think it would be good. Or I think next season it'll be great because I do believe the women are quirky. We haven't gotten the quirkiness much this season because we're just getting to know them. They're getting to know each other. But now that we're reaching the end of the Roni season, I am feeling like we're in a good spot-ish. And I personally would like if they maybe incorporate, like, bring Luann and Sonia in the mix, or try to find a way to maybe bring a couple of them and bridge the gap that way. But I do think the season's bad. And I do feel like everybody's kidding themselves if they're saying it's good. That's my opinion. And maybe it's wrong. And maybe some people are listening and saying you're wrong, but it's not, I don't fault the women for it because I think it was good casting. I just fault that they are doing 16 episodes of essentially a brand new show, which they wouldn't. Salt Lake City might have had a large amount of episodes, but I really feel like they had the content for it. And for their first season. And I don't feel like Roni did this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, Salt Lake, and also you had Jen Shaw throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticked. And, you know, we were also in a pandemic where we were pretty much locked away in our houses still. So all of that really added to just being so thirsty for that content. And they did deliver. It was like, you know, the religion of it all, the location of it all with the snow. It worked on so many different levels. But then you go to Salt Lake now. And what do you think of Salt Lake this season? Because it is, it shouldn't work, yet it works so well. It's like, it's none of it really adds up, but it's so wonderful it's like a fever dream.
Do you feel this way? Recapping it gives a different appreciation for it because it is so fast paced. It's so, I keep saying the word crazy. I apologize, but it's so fucking nuts. Everything, the characters are nuts. What's going on is nuts. And so it is so much fun to recap. So it does give me a different appreciation because I just have the best time when I get to talk about on the microphone about Salt Lake City. And I don't always feel that way. And I'm sure you do too. Sometimes if a season's really snoozy or something, you're like, I don't got anything to say about this.
Oh, I get to do a Salt Lake recap later, and I'm so looking forward to it just because of Meredith Marks. And I was thinking about this because I was watching the OC reunion last night, and I said there's something about once a housewife gets into 3rd or 4th season, just in terms of their vocal bravado. You know, it's like Meredith, of course, like all the accents, but you notice how she's like elongating she's like, yeah, be more free with that voice. It's like, it reminds me of voice class when you're like, speak from the diaphragm. And Meredith, just like Shannon Bedore of like, my only job is to be Shannon Storms Bedore. And I was like, this is amazing. This is huge.
It's so
Look at the
good.
vocal leaps.
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat every time Meredith Marks talks. I'm just like, what is going to come out of the mouth right now? Like, I don't know. Because that scene this week when she was with Brooks, all of a sudden it was more monotone. It was like they were in the car and she's like, I'm going to be working for Glass. And it was just so
And Brooks has snow
strange.
goggles on. So you feel like, I said it was like that dream you have of like, oh yeah, I went snowshoeing with Meredith and Brooks Marks. He was wearing big goggles. And then the scene ends with Brooks hopping around in
Oh my God,
snowshoes.
flouncing, I think, around. He was skipping around, flouncing.
I was so in love
I
with it.
loved it.
Oh my God. Really
Yeah,
quickly about
yeah.
OC, where do you think we wound up? Because I thought the second part of the reunion was really actually interesting to watch, but it's interesting also because we know what happens 10 days later with Miss Shannon Bedore. What did you think of this season?
I thought it was a hard thing of nowadays we almost expect them to pick back up filming or to edit the episodes, and we know they have to do it in advance. So the Orange County, I kept thinking before it aired, what are they going to do to address the Shannon Bedore thing driving around into somebody's house? And ultimately they just had the quick little title card. But I am a fan of a 2-part reunion if it calls for it. I don't think we need to stretch everything to a 3-part reunion. Again, it goes back to that thing of like network not stretching it out. And I always love Bravo because some of the other reality TV networks will stretch everything out. If you look at Fox or ABC or some of those shows where they're showing 3-hour episodes that could be 1 or 2 hours. So I think by and large, Bravo is really respectful of the audience's time in that way. And I like to give them credit for that. And so I was happy for a 2-part reunion. I loved the season of Orange County. To me, this was finally a return to form that they had promised last season with Heather. And so I loved the mix. I love the cast of Orange County right now. And yeah, I thought it was a great overall season. I enjoyed watching every single episode.
Did you like Tamara back?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that I think is most important about Tamara is she keeps everybody else on their toes. So I think everybody else steps up a little bit. They're all on guard. Probably because they've worked with Tamara before and they know that she could stir the pot at any given moment and say or do whatever. But I think that is important for the show because I don't know if you noticed this, but it's like Gina, Emily, I thought they all kind of had to rise a little bit this season. Do you feel that way?
Yes, I thought, it is interesting. They always say work with the best people to like actually make your own performance rise. And I hate to say that about Tamara, but she really did bring that up, even though I don't agree with how she does it. I don't know how she does it. I don't know how people just don't nail her to the wall every second of the day. She's able to get away with everything, but you can't argue that it worked this season. It completely worked.
I also, this might be a conspiracy theory, but seeing her and Heather at the end of the part 2 of the reunion, and they went out afterwards and they've been posting pictures smiling. I'm like, oh, I wonder if there is maybe not explicit, but maybe there is a tinge of like, oh, the 2 of us, we're going to perform this season, and I'm okay with that because to me, that worked. Sometimes it might feel too actory or too staged, but to me, they both stepped up, and Heather, I think, wanted someone to work with, much like if you read Dave Quinn's excellent book about the
Not
Real
all
Housewives.
diamonds and rosé, yeah.
Yeah, he talks, or the chapter, I think it was about Atlanta, where Nene Leakes and Claudia had that, of course, infamous fight. And Nene's referenced this before in other interviews, but even though her and Claudia were fighting so much, I think Nene appreciated having someone to kind of a strong presence on the show. And I feel like Heather probably appreciated, even when she was fighting with Tamara, that she had something to work with. Because above all else, Heather is a performer. And so even though she might have been hating Tamara at that finale party, I think there was a part of Heather that was like, oh, good, chase me around this party. Like, I finally have someone to work with. Because
finally
when
have a
she
scene
was,
partner.
yeah, when she was with some other people that have come and gone, it's like, what is she doing with that Dr. Jen? Like, no offense to Dr. Jen, but she wasn't making anyone's talents rise on Orange County.
It's like, well, yeah, it's like Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis, like Thelma and Louise. You got to have these 2 parts for actually the movie to work. So that's an interesting way to look at it. And also, this season was based around acting with IMDb and, Heather moving to Los Angeles to get more film and TV work, which is hysterical because everything's on tape now anyway. So you don't have to move. It made no sense at all. But I love this season in this really weird way. I'm just curious because I love that thought of them the meta of it all, of Shannon saying, I'm Shannon Storms Bedore, like I'm a performer, I get out there and I show my stomach
Yes.
on national. And I love that thought of them thinking of themselves as performers, as slapping on the old stage makeup and doing the razzle dazzle. To me, that makes me laugh so much that they almost try to outproducer the producers. And that's the thing that fascinates me, is this cat and mouse game potentially between producers and them producing themselves.
Yeah, and I think when the cast members do take it too far, like there was that scene earlier in the season where a producer, they showed a moment where Shannon's like, I can't talk about John's kid because they hate me. You know, I can't bring that up on camera. And they showed that. And so I always feel like the producers will keep the cast members in check, where if they feel like they are doing something like Shannon might have seemingly been doing in the season in regards to John, or what is that the guy's name? John?
John
Whatever the fuck
Jansen.
his name.
I'm John
Yeah.
Jansen. I'm
Yeah,
so
John.
angry.
So I think they threw her under the bus a little bit, because probably they wanted her to talk about her relationship with his kids. And so finally she was hiding that for so long, and they said, okay, we're going to show that moment. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I loved
If you
it.
try to pull off your mic, we're gonna film you, because when Shannon tries to pull off her mic, she thinks it's like a bravo, bravo, effing bravo. But when she does it, she reveals so much information within the process of, like, she'll be like, "We have fights that paralyze me." Like, you dork! If you're gonna do it, stop. You say more information when you're leaving than you
Right.
do in actual scenes. It's amazing.
I know, it's so good. And I also think Orange County is very hard to cast. By every seeming account we've heard from interviews with producers and Andy or whoever, it seems like that's one of the most difficult franchises to cast. And of course, we are in Orange County, so it's not like Orange County is some huge country or something. You know, it's a small area. So I would imagine it's challenging to find people that are going to be open and honest on camera, who can bring us a little bit of that razzle dazzle that we need and a little bit of performance. And so in terms of the casting, I just don't know that we would get much better than what we have now with casting. We've had so many people kind of come and go, and we flopping
Yeah.
hard. And so at least with Orange County, I'm like, okay, this cast they're pretty good. Like, let's at least keep it maybe another season and see. And I like an addition, but I don't know that we need to get rid of anyone.
Do you have like 10 more minutes, Danny?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Orange County, I want to move on to, we're about to get hit with Beverly Hills. And obviously the Kyle Mauricio relationship. We're seeing Mauricio on Dancing with the Stars with Ariana. Are you looking forward to this season? Where does your mind go when you see Kyle in ripped denim with her new friend Morgan, which I think, new friends, you know, and by the way, your trip, you know, you even say, like, I endear myself sometimes to the weirdest person in the room, or somebody, you know, like I just keep thinking about the one story with the lady with the meats. I'm sorry, but like, I love how you went
The
out and
lady
like
with the
drank with her
meats.
that night. You went in, like, I was like, oh my God, you went out and had drinks with her and you were hungover the next morning, which, you guys, you got to get this book, because this
Thank you.
one's, that story makes me laugh thinking about it all week. The Jolliest Bunch. But Morgan, Wade, and Kyle, where are you at with all of this? And how do you think they're going to even put this into the show?
Ryan, the way that you just bridged a gap between my holiday book and the honky tonk lesbian that Kyle is potentially dating is masterful. And so I thank you for that. But the Morgan, I'm sort of tired of all of that stuff. I also
Yeah.
find that to be a bunch of bullshit. And maybe it's not. And forgive me, and I will eat crow if it comes out that it's not. But I just feel so skeptical about the whole thing. And in the trailer, I guess I maybe leaned a little bit more towards believing what's happening with Kyle because of the tears and it felt like real emotion, and seeing her get the tattoo, which I don't know that you would get a tattoo if it's super PR planned. However, I'm still very skeptical of it. They both have shows coming out. A new season of Beverly Hills. Mauricio's got a new season of that Netflix show. I don't understand why Morgan's doing the Amazon Lives with Kyle, because that makes me believe that they have more of a business relationship. And so I just think, I'm skeptical of all of it. And I'm worried that the whole season is going to be about that. The whole trailer was essentially about that. And from what I understand, a lot of that was like picked up filming after the season had wrapped, because
Yeah.
the story broke after the season wrapped. So that made me believe, like, well, do they have anything else for us? Or are they going to try to edit that throughout the season and just sort of tease it for 100 episodes? So I'm cautiously optimistic. I sounded so pessimistic, but Beverly Hills, I think even when it's bad, I find it fun to recap, because you can, I don't know how to say this. It's a fun show to recap because personalities like Kyle and Erica are big personalities,
Yeah.
sort of.
Well,
Am I
I
making
always,
sense?
you totally. I mean,
Maybe
and
it's just fun
Sutton.
to drag. I think it's fun to drag the Beverly Hills Housewives.
Oh my
I
God, it
want it to be
is.
PC, but it's fun to drag the Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Well, it's like Orange County thinks of themselves as performers. Beverly Hills thinks of themselves as superstars. Erica Jane, I still think she thinks she's Lady Gaga in her head because she was like, I don't know if anybody wants to work with me anymore. And like, I love the thought of her like getting in the studio for a comeback of like, is the audience still hungry for me? And I'm like, was the audience ever? What I brought this up so many times. Like, remember when you went to that Erica Jane show and you did a bunch of videos in the back in the empty space? Do you remember?
I did. I went to an Erica Jane show in Las Vegas. Like I know
Yeah.
she's got the residency there, but I went on like I think it was there. Maybe it was a Vegas Pride weekend or something, but it was a completely empty venue, and I was there to support. I was ready to pat the
Yeah.
puss, and then there was nobody else on the floor. It was like nobody was there, um, and yes, it was shocking.
Wait, will you go see Erica Jane for the Bet It All on Blonde tour?
I mean, I would sort of go if I was in Vegas and we were drinking and friends wanted to go and the tickets were $7, like in the right circumstances, of course, yes. And
I
I don't know if you're like this, but with all of the Bravo celebrities, even when I hate, it's like family. Even when I hate them, like outside of our family, I support them. So like. I might hate, let's say, Erica Jane, but if I hear somebody who doesn't watch Beverly Hills Housewives talking shit about her, I might stick up for her. That's the kind of vibe to me.
Okay, so would that carry over to Tom Sandoval and the Most Extras?
No, and I should also be clear. I don't know if it would apply to Erica Jane specifically, but yes, I think some of them I would. Some of them I
Yeah.
should be clear. Some of them I would or even when they're on other shows, I tend to support them even if I hate them. So if one of them pops up in like Celebrity Big Brother that I hate, I will still support them on Celebrity Big Brother.
Oh, I was actually really excited when I heard the rumor that Erica Jane was going to be on Celebrity Big Brother. I was like, oh, I might actually check that out if she's on it because it would be interesting to see when she drops a persona or when she amps up the persona. That kind of stuff would be fascinating on like open feed cameras.
Yeah, I know they're doing Traders on Peacock, which is a great show, but I would like a more of a style where they're all under one roof, like a Big Brother. But instead of it being a mix of reality TV people, I'd love it if it was just our Bravo people.
Yeah, no, that would be amazing. And it's kind of close to that way. I mean, it's there in a sense, but then they try to bring in like last week, like Survivor with Sari and all these.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bravo would just be incredible.
And Winter House is kind of starting to adapt that model, but they're still centering it on the younger talent on the network. And I would like to see the Housewives, and Ultimate Girls Trip is sort of like that, but I just basically want that season of Ultimate Girls Trip where it was everyone at Dorinda's house. Like, I just want that to be an ongoing series at Dorinda's haunted house. Like, just please lock people in there
I mean,
every year.
I love that Ultimate Girls Trip at Dorinda's. Just the fact, like how, like about not eating in the bedrooms, and it was like so visceral in terms of her anger and like the I cooked, I clean, I made it nice, and you just see how she really does live and die by that mantra.
Yeah. And by the way, that's the only, to me, good season. The first season and the third season were okay to watch, but they're not anything I would revisit because it was enjoyable to watch. But the second season, I have and I will continue to revisit because it's so chaotic.
Um, then to well, by the way, that the Erica Jane thing cracks me up because I ask a lot of people that question, would you see it? And it's always the same. It's always, well, it's conditional. Well, it's always like, well, if somebody tranquilized me and they dragged my body and then I didn't have like, it's always four conditions before they're like, yeah, I would, but here's the deal. I wouldn't pay with American money and I wouldn't do that. They always have these,
I love our little Bravo community. I love us all. And the truth is, any of those shows, whether it be Countess Luann or Erica Jane, what makes them fun is the audience being people that have the same reference points. So I know an Erica Jane show would be fun because I'd be surrounded with people who had those conditions, like you mentioned, but also know every quote and meme of Erica. Like we would have a good time with each other. So to me, that's the best part about going to a Countess Luann show, which you and I have gone to, and like just being around each other.
I was talking in an interview about BravoCon yesterday. Are you going to be able to be at BravoCon, or does it?
Yeah. I'm so excited. I'm actually doing a signing. It's in Henderson, which is like Las Vegas adjacent, but I'm doing a signing at the Barnes and Noble in Henderson. So if it's the Thursday before, BravoCon starts on Friday, it'll be the Thursday before. So if anyone's out there,
Oh,
come see
hell
me in
yeah.
Henderson. You have to get, it's a ticketed thing for that and the Grove signing, but it'll be really fun because we'll all be together. So
went when we that thing you organized at your ropes course, and then we went to the Quiet Woman afterwards, remember? And Gina and Emily were
I
there,
sure
and then
do.
Shannon walked in and gave him the dirtiest look ever, and then came over to the table, and I was like taking pictures of Shannon, and she like looked like dead in my eyes, like evil, and was like, oh, it was like, it was,
Never forget.
oh,
I'll
amazing.
never forget. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sort of scared to see Shannon just because I'm not normally, I'm not super mean to anybody, but I don't always say the most complimentary things, let's say, about Shannon.
Well, that's, how do you do that as a host of like trying to pick the right things of like, we want to be nice, but we also want to be, you're a fan, you're somebody that represents us as well. How do you walk that line? And by the way, how do you do that on your podcast?
I don't know. I try to make my show is always just meant to be silly. So I never really try to go too hard on anybody. And if I do, I try to turn it around on myself or make self-deprecating jokes. But I never really want anyone to leave the show feeling like I was too hard on somebody. So I really do try my best to keep it something I at least would feel comfortable if I do run into one of these people in the wild or see them somewhere, because I truthfully do not want to get yelled at. And I also just want to be silly. Like I'm not, my show is, I think, less about my opinions and more about just like, let's have some laughs for an hour about all of this stuff that's going on. And of course, occasionally I might cross a line a little bit and say something that's hard on some of the women, but I do try my best to keep it above the line.
I am the opposite of that, you guys. As you know, I'm scared to bump into everybody. I'm scared to bump into Tom Sandoval. I'm scared. Would you ever have Tom Sandoval on your podcast at this point?
I don't know. I think that would be challenging. Uh, yeah, I think that would be, he has been on before, and I don't know. I do want to move on from all of that Scandival stuff. And I kind of feel like they were all, and this is might get me in trouble, but I do feel like it was all a lot of heightened emotions. And I do kind of feel bad for everybody involved in all of it, because it must have just been a really challenging time for all of them. Ariana, Rachel, Tom, kind of looking back at that whole moment in time, we were all talking about it, and it must have just been hard. And so I know I'm glad we're moving into the new season and emotions are down and all of that.
Yeah, I want this new season to start and be over
Would
with. And
you?
then I feel,
Would
no,
you
I don't
interview
think
Tom?
so at this point. No, I got really like, I mean, I got lost in the sauce, as Tom Schwartz would say, because also like I was really like, we obviously know Ariana aside from this, and I just thought, and I did like I was at Coachella with him and Rick. I really was shocked, and I really would have fought to the end saying, oh, this is bullshit, it's a lie, he never would do that. I get
I
this
know.
weird thing where I look up to some of these people in a real, like, it's really, I've had to check myself. And so I was just shocked. And I just thought, oh man, I always liked him because he was like the anti-Jax, and he wasn't one of those guys using this to potentially get, and then just watching his performance, his Howie Mandel, I just thought this is not doing anybody any favors. And then the Vanderpump ecosystem, myself included, watching that take off, and then everybody start getting brand deals on top of it. And I don't mean Ariana. I mean like everybody around. That's what I was like. I wish this next season would just be about the hype, the Beatlemania of it
Mm-hmm.
all, and watching the reality of that situation. Because at this point,
That'd
you
be
can't
so
argue that
fascinating.
Tom is not financially making money off this as well. Like he's just having to do it in a way that he's not used to as a villain. But he's finding every opportunity to get out there, from Special Forces to The Masked Singer to his own podcast, which I know he doesn't even really love podcasts. So that to me is interesting to watch that in terms of a PR machine that it is now. So I mean, but at the same time, what a time that we had. Like it's Haley's Comet. It's not going to come around for a long time.
Yeah, it was also great TV. It was just so well produced, the
Oh,
TV.
right.
Like every episode from, I guess, the second half of the season was thrilling to watch. And I think it was thrilling not only because of all of those things outside of the episodes of TV with the ecosystem, like you mentioned, but I also just think the episodes were so well produced. They were thrilling to watch. So that made
Yeah.
it fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other thing too, in just terms of like, and we've talked a little bit about conspiracies and things that happen behind the scenes, but I just got so tired of people telling me this was set up, and I was like, guys, I can guarantee you this is real. Like I can guarantee, and that was frustrating just to see us as an audience and where we are in society today with anything pop culture. Like even Taylor and Travis Kelce. No, the NFL is paying them to do this. Like sometimes I'm like, guys, we sometimes have a nugget of truth. There's two things can be true at once, but not everything is this global conspiracy down to Vanderpump Rules giving Sheena Shea the lines to say with Tom Sandoval in a scene.
Yeah, and I think it's challenging, and it makes the line a little blurry when you maybe do know them in real life, or and because the show is edited one way, people are different in real life in other ways, and so it does make that kind of a mind fuck to navigate it. Yeah.
Yeah. This has gone way too fast. I wanted to say really quickly, though, for 4 So Bad It's Good listeners, I am giving away copies of The Jolliest Bunch. I'll let you know how to give this, but I think this is the I mean, I'm not even, I will bet my whole life on it that this is a book that will add to your holiday season. Listen, you guys know, I lost my mom about a month and a half ago, and I was reading
I'm
that
so
first
sorry,
story.
Ryan, too, by the way. But I mean, well,
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I was reading that first story and I really got nervous about reading your book, because it made me it reminded me of all the things that I loved about my mom during the holidays and how that won't be here this year. And I was like, oh, is this healthy? But then I kept reading it and it made me love all those memories about my mom. It made me think about all those memories about my mom. It made me think about the holidays in the most positive way, even when it's negative in the holidays, how it turns into a positive. And that's what this book is going to fill you with. I mean, truly insane stories. And also, how long did it take you to, I mean, within the first 2 sentences of the acknowledgements, he thanks JC Chazé, which of course he had to get a JC Chazé in there.
Of course. Yeah. That's my JC. That's my, yes.
Yeah. What would JC do? JC Chazé. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think of the new NSYNC song, and how excited are you about the possibility of a possible tour return?
I hope there's more NSYNC coming. I would kill for a tour. I love NSYNC, and so of course I want anything to come out of JC Chazé's mouth is good with me. Or
anything.
Yeah, I won't. I'll let you
sorry,
do the joke.
No,
I didn't. I realized when that was coming out of my mouth that it was inappropriate. No, I love JC though, and so I thought the song was fun and catchy. Of course, it's very like a Trolls soundtrack song, so I would like to hear what they would do outside of the confines of doing a song for a Trolls movie. But of course,
like a Transformers movie, maybe.
Yeah, I would love a new music otherwise, and I don't know. I think it makes sense for them to tour. I think it'd be good also for Justin's career, because whether or not you like Justin, I think it's pretty clear that public perception of him isn't what it used to be, right? Like he's had plenty of things go on, and I think he's not maybe well liked on the internet in a lot of circles. And so I think it's good for his career to also do this, because we love nostalgia, and I don't know, I'm excited. I even like JC Chazé's Meow Mix commercials, so that's where I was
going to bring that. See, I was like, there's no, it reminded me of when I watched Salt Lake City. I was like, there's no way this is real right now. I'm like, meow, 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 meow. I was like, JC, what's happened? But I was always been a JC guy myself. So I'm so excited if this does happen. I think they deserve it. And I would love a revamped Digital Get Down to like Digital Now. Like Digital Get Down kind of ushered in the age of sexiness on the internet. What would Digital Get Down Part 2 be like right now? It would be so exciting.
And a tour from them would be the best time ever. I think collectively, all the millennials that love them, or, their early days, I think would just have the best time at an NSYNC concert. And now I'm finding that all of the artists have stepped up their game. I mean, Beyonce and Taylor Swift doing their tours and making them such huge events and also very long shows, I think has inspired a lot of these musicians to come out and maybe do bigger tours. And so I think an NSYNC or even an NSYNC Justin bill, that's kind of where I land on this conspiracy, is that there are dates that are booked for Justin in 2024. And so people are saying, oh, there's not going to be an NSYNC tour because Justin's going on the road and he's got a new album. I kind of feel like they could do one of these big tours where it is maybe Justin and NSYNC, and it's like a whole big tour, much like the Eras tour or something, where it's like we have the NSYNC era and then we have Justin, and maybe at the end they come out and do the new song or something else. That's what I think is going to happen, but I could be totally wrong, and it's just me guessing.
No, I think you're dead on right. And another thing you're dead on right about is that you're going to order this book today, The Jolliest Bunch, from gay ghosts to road trips to families to
Yes.
I mean,
There's
just
a
every
Halloween story in there. There's some Thanksgiving. So I know it's early in the year as of this recording's out, but I am gonna officially beg all of your listeners to get it because we gotta sell the book so that I can keep doing this.
That's what I'm
And
saying. I want one of these every 2 years. I want to know what's in Danny's mind every
thank
two
you.
years. And it kind of comforted me because I was like, well, where are our David Sedaris? Where I'm like, oh, this is our David Sedaris. This is somebody that we are going to continually hear from him. And I want this to happen. I need this to happen.
Yeah.
Lastly, you went on The View last time. You stayed at Dorinda's Bluestone Manor. Any fun promo things that you have coming up?
Yeah, I'm starting to do a bunch of press, so I think I'll be on Watch What Happens Live soon, and yeah, I'll be at BravoCon. I'm doing all these book events, and then hopefully some other TV and podcasts and all sorts of stuff. But I'll post on my Instagram as these things are happening, which is at Danny Pellegrino. But yeah, I'm super excited about a couple things. The Watch What Happens Live. I think everyone will get a kick out of hopefully when uh we haven't recorded it yet, but
Yeah.
it
Well, you
should
were
be a
on
fun
with
time.
Katie Maloney last time, right in the heat of Scandival. So it'll be exciting to see what happens this time and who you're paired up with, because I can
Yes.
only imagine who it could be. So I'm very excited to see who
Yeah,
that is.
it'll be a fun. Hopefully it's someone maybe a Salt Lake housewife or something, but I'm excited. Uh, yeah.
The Jolliest Bunch, Unhinged Holiday Stories. Get it now. I'm like I said, I'm going to give 4 listeners a copy. I'll give you more information on that. And Danny, thank you so much. You really add so much to my life, like all of our lives. And I cannot wait to see the reception of this book because I know it's going to
Thank you,
be
Ryan.
insanely good.
You know I love you, and I'm so sorry for your loss, and just I just want to say I love you, and your listeners are always so kind to me. So thank you.
Thank you.